Boom, 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 boom. I am President Chad, and welcome to the United Hour and the EPL Rewind. This is the show where we talk about everything that would have happened in game week 10 in the Premier League. Every week, we look over all the events of the Premier League, all the hot and exciting games, and all of the stuff that happened, all the controversies. And there was no bigger game this weekend than Arsenal versus Liverpool. But before we jump into that, let me introduce our guest right next to me. We have the man Zahir. Good evening to you. And we also
Greetings,
have
greetings.
Mr. Arsenal Tristan in his house. How are you gentlemen going today?
Well, I am sure I am not as happy as Mr. Gunners on the bottom there because the man seems to be firing cannons at all and sundry in the Premier League right now. So, Tristan, how are you going today?
Man, I'm just good, humble as always. You know me. That's just my goal. My goal. I'm very humble. I'm very proud of my team at the point in time. We proved out us wrong. We proved out us
Well,
wrong.
I'm sure you proved out as wrong, but not anybody on this program, because you would remember when we spoke that I think a lot of people in the comments, Martin Phillip was one of them. He's in the house already. Good afternoon to Mr. Phillip. He himself expected you all to beat Liverpool, and Arsenal did beat Liverpool. So let's just go through the details of the game quickly, and then let's get into the opinion of our guest. So you had in the opening minute, Martinelli opening the scoring, right? 1-0. Then you had Darwin Nunez on a feed from Luis Diaz, leveling the scoring. Bakayoko Saka scoring just and before half time to take back the lead. Robert Firmino coming on with a injury to Luis Diaz, and Saka scoring a penalty late in the second half to close it off. Arsenal winning 3-2. Now, yes, Saka scored a penalty, but Arsenal were deserved winners. They played all over Liverpool and they deserve to win. Before we jump into your thoughts on the game, Luis Diaz has been ruled out until possibly after the World Cup. It is a long-term injury for Luis Diaz. So anybody who, I don't know if you're into the fantasy football, Luis Diaz is unavailable, and he's going to be unavailable for a very long time. So you'll keep that in your minds. So talk to me, Tristan. Last time we were speaking, I asked you, if you all win this game, do you all consider yourself title contenders? You said at that time, no. Do you still feel that way? Or,
I said
or, or
I'm
should
being very humble.
Arsenal be genuinely considered title contenders at this point in time?
I will be very honest and I'll be very humble in my answer, as I've always been. Arsenal are doing good. I wouldn't say no. I don't think we are genuine title contenders. Our main goal is to finish in top four, and genuinely, I would say we are top four material. If we manage to win the title, by all means, I'll be happy. I'll be real. Trust me, I'll be so excited. I think I might probably do something extraordinary, literally. Right? And I'll just say that I'll just keep very humble in my answer right now because I wouldn't say anything that could come back and bite me in the rear in the end. But so far, they played good. I will not downplay that. And we're playing as a unit, as a team, and everyone buying into Mikel Arteta's philosophy, which is a plus. Um, that's it basically.
So Courtney is saying that you all are title contenders. I personally feel that from this point on, right? We cannot, I for one, cannot refer to Arsenal as anything else other than title contenders. Zahir, before I come to you, I just want to look at Arsenal's record. In the past. So Arsenal have played Spurs in game week 9. They won 3-1. They played Liverpool. They won 3-2. And they have beaten everybody else except Manchester United. Clearly, on that kind of run, they've played 10 games, only lost 1. I mean, Zaire, at this point, we have to admit that maybe miraculously that elephant deserves to be on the tree. Zaire, you're muted.
Sorry about that, guys. You hearing me now?
Yes, go ahead.
With all due respect to Arsenal and what they've done, these are the facts. Yes, they've only lost 1 game in the first 9. And we all know who they lost that game to, the only real big team that they've played so far in Manchester United. It means, therefore, that they are currently only 1 point ahead of City, whereas City has a goal difference that is almost double Arsenal's. So my question to the Gunners would be, if they slip up and City goes ahead of them, can they catch them and overtake them, given the rate at which City scores and wins games? 1. 2. The last time an Arsenal team finished in the top 4 was the 2015-2016 season, where they finished second to Leicester by a whopping 10 points, which doesn't sound like much, but it's big in the context of the Premier League. Since then, Arsenal has not finished in the top 4. So you're talking the last, that's 2015-16, so you're looking at the last 7 seasons of not finishing in the top 4. Have they forgotten what it's like to finish in the top 4 and secure an automatic Champions League boost? You
The
need
vast
the
majority
experienced players. You need an experienced manager, and I don't know yet if Mikel Arteta and these players can win a title. However, even though I'm not willing to call them title contenders, I'll definitely call them top 4 contenders.
So Zaire is not willing to call you all title contenders. He's agreeing with you. Grell is saying that, Arsenal is on a Cinderella run and is going to end at midnight.
Well,
ahead,
I will say to Zaire, I must say, you're brutally honest. We're not title contenders. I appreciate you and all the Liverpool fans for saying certain things. Yes, you have the authority to talk because you spanked me 3-1 in your home ground. I respect that. But remember, when it come to the Emirates, they always say payback is a dish always served cold. I'll take you up on that. But I must say, currently, I'll downplay it and say we are title contenders right now. Top 4, yes. Because City and Haaland is very hard to stop, as you can see. No team have a plan for Haaland. Not even you all had a plan for Haaland.
No team has had a successful plan as yet.
Fuck. Except for Bournemouth. Bournemouth made him. He didn't score against Bournemouth, right? And Liverpool first game. He's going good. Everybody thought he would have come in and would have find it tough, but this man is a robot. City's favorite. Don't count me out. But the way Arsenal are playing as a team is different from the Arsenal teams of generations. Whereas you had a one-man star. Fabregas injured, Van Persie injured.
Let me touch you a little bit on that. Because one of the challenges I had with this Arsenal team is the fact that they lacked, in my opinion, leadership. Right? In the sense that everybody was pretty young. And the most senior person on the team is Xhaka. And we all know the issues that the team had with Xhaka throwing the armband on the ground, and it had people say he should never wear Arsenal jersey again. Things have turned, the tide has turned, all is well in love and war. The fans have re-embraced him as a player, fine. But it doesn't change the fact that this team is not filled with a lot of known leaders. maybe the likes of Martinelli and Saka are maybe young, but they're showing leadership behind the team. Do you think, Tristan, that leadership is an issue for Arsenal?
I don't think
During the course of a long season, when you know you're going to hit speed bumps somewhere along the road.
what I will say is these youngsters have learned a lot. 2 disappointment back to back finishing fifth, whereas Spurs pipped us the Champions League on the final day. I must say they learned from it. And if you look at it, they are hungry.
So
I'm
as a
sure.
Liverpool supporter, you don't think leadership is an issue?
No, they have leadership in the dressing room. You can see it with Xhaka especially. Even when we score one goal up, you see it. Gabriel Jesus, Xhaka, they pull the whole team together and they talk. They say what they have to say what they're seeing, what they're lacking, and then they go back and they start back again to rumble. So I see leadership there. Xhaka was one of the most hated. When I mean, nobody I know loves Xhaka. I love Xhaka from since the under 17 FIFA championship with Switzerland. That's how far I love Xhaka. Literally. Right? When he came to Arsenal, I always say they were playing him out of position because when you look at Xhaka for Switzerland and you look at Xhaka for Arsenal, it comes like a clone. We get the bad clone. But now you actually put him in a more advanced position and you put him in the position that he plays for Switzerland. You see these Granit Xhaka people love and people adore. You actually see what it is actually Wenger actually bought him for, right? Because other coaches came in and Xhaka was the first name on the list regardless of what. And his leadership for his country and what he brings to the team along with these youngsters, yes, it helps. What we could do, we could add more. Thomas Partey, despite the allegations going about, he's a senior figure. Rob Holding, who is 29 years old, he's a senior figure, and he played bit part role within the team. He's not playing, but he's very vocal, and you could see it. You could see it. There's no.
So you all don't feel that there's an issue with leadership, and you
No,
would
I
know
don't.
your club, which is why we're starting off talking about Arsenal because you are here.
Mhm.
Let me just bring in some of the comments. Courtney is saying, but they brought in 2 winners in Zinchenko and Jesus, correct? And you mentioned Jesus as well. And I like this comment from Grell, and I want you to respond to it quickly. And then we're going to move on to some of the other games. And it is that Arsenal has made a vast improvement, or is it that some of the other teams are struggling? For example, Liverpool. The truth be told, anybody who is determined enough could spank Liverpool. You know what I mean? So should we really be rating Arsenal performances, or is it that teams like Spurs, teams like Liverpool, you all are just playing them at the right time and being able to be successful at this point? What say you to that side of the argument? We're not hearing you.
Repeat that last part for me, please.
There are some people that say, you all play Spurs and you all play Liverpool at a bad time. That those teams struggling, those teams going through their own challenges, and you all
Well,
just lucky.
well, what I will say is this, right? Arsenal long ago and the Arsenal now, regardless of who you bring up, remember we carry a seaside to Manchester United and we get our tail washed 8-2. At the end of the day, it was Arsenal. Whoever we play in front of us, they represent their team, right? We played Tottenham. Tottenham was only missing Kolvenski, the Swedish winger. They had a full strength team, right? We beat them. We played Crystal Palace, a place we struggle. We beat them, home by them, a place we always struggle for the past few years. So all the opposition that we face, we literally beat except for United, right? And we were struggling against United. You never hear us make excuses and say, well, we didn't have Thomas Partey. We had Martin Odegaard. He wasn't fully fit. And I did mention that before the game, it will play a major factor in the game. And I said if we did get a draw against Ole, it would have been a plus. right? So I wouldn't say that. That teamwork club play is the same team that beat up Rangers. And Klopp was very confident with our same team. It happens. Arsenal been in that position for years in terms of we play our top six rivals, we pick up injury, and now it's happening to other fans and other rival teams. We can't really rejoice on that because I hate to see players get injured. And you know for that for a fact.
As it should be told, you play who in front of you. And
Yeah,
yes, Liverpool is struggling. And yes, Spurs, to me, based on the eye test, seem to be struggling as well. But the bottom line is you play who's in front of you and only
and you
beat
beat
those
them.
teams.
You
And that
beat
is
them.
all that
Simple.
matters. When you're looking at results, when you're looking in history, you don't see asterisks. Well, yeah, this team was missing three
This was
stars.
our
You
B
don't have
side.
anything like
Yeah.
that. None of that matters at the end of the season. So I understand what you're saying and I agree with you. Okay, so let's jump into some of the score lines that went on Thursday. Chelsea demolished Wolves 3-0. Um, should
They
we
not
talk
slum.
about should we talk about the scores? Yes, we will. Kai Havertz, Pulisic, and Armando Broya getting on the
Woohoo
team sheet, scoring his first senior goal
for
for
Chelsea.
Chelsea, which is good for him because he would want to be a regular starter in that team. Mason Mount with 2 assists. Um, guys, do you think that Potter is finally starting to get a tune out of this Chelsea team, Zaya?
I think it's more than just a tune. I think after what happened with Tuchel's sacking, I think Chelsea has enough stars on that team who are sitting there with chips on their shoulders and a lot of points to prove, right? And just what a couple of seasons ago they were Champions League winners, right? So the majority of the squad that won the Champions League is still there. They've reinforced well. I mean, Broya is a perfect example of this because I believe I remember a couple of seasons ago looking at it, and Chelsea could feel almost two full 11s with players that they had out on loan at that point in time. And you tell yourself, eventually the chickens will come home to roost. And now he is one who got some experience. I believe he was playing with Southampton last season on loan and did pretty well, caught the eye. So now that Potter has had some time to settle in, and the players have bought in, because I don't think players of the caliber of Havertz, Aubameyang, and those guys, it should not be hard for them to adapt to Graham Potter's style of football.
All right, true. We hear that. Even though he didn't get any assists on the score sheet, Conor Gallagher, a former loanee to Crystal Palace,
Big player,
also had a
big
very
player.
good game as well. Tristan,
I would
Chelsea's.
Chelsea.
Go ahead.
I would say based on Chelsea's performance, Chelsea are doing just like what we are doing in terms of they actually beating people who in front of them, regardless of injuries or slumps or the case may be. Because some people will argue Wolves are in a slump. Some people will argue Liverpool is in a slump. They're just going about caring about their business. They beat AC Milan today on top of it, all kind of thing. So they're stepping in
Back-to-back
the right
wins
direction.
against Milan.
Pardon me?
Back-to-back wins because they beat them home and away.
Yeah. So I will say Potter know what he doing. He know the players he have, and he's getting to use them. Broha is a player. I'm telling you honestly, as a rival fan, is a player I love. When he was in Southampton, I've in fantasy. He's a dream for any manager. I just was wondering why it is Chelsea didn't give him a chance. Potter will, and hopefully he will give our Potter that trust with goals. Not against us though, but I just love to see betterment for young players especially.
Correct. True that. Manchester City beat up, spanked Southampton 4-0. And up to the 64th minute, everybody thought, wow, Haaland is not going to get a goal, but he did get the final goal. Cancelo with an unbelievable run and 1-2 with Foden with the first goal, Phil Foden with the second, Mahrez with the third, and Erling Haaland, the man, the machine, the cheat code, scored the fourth goal. We really have nothing to say about City other than City just keep doing
Funny,
City things right
funny
about.
thing with City.
But
Funny thing about City. I saw a Liverpool fan tweeted. So it's oh no, I think it was a United fan. He tweeted, so nobody ain't gonna complain that it's 80 minutes past and Haaland didn't score a goal yet.
And right
Soon
after
after,
right
and
after the
soon
tweet, he
right
scored.
after.
So I'm the he must know not to tweet. Leave Haaland out him out. You understand? Say nothing. Say absolutely nothing. I want to spend a little time talking about Newcastle. Sorry, that's the wrong. Yeah, here we go. I want to spend a little time talking about Newcastle. Newcastle beat Brentford 5-1, albeit that a couple of the goals were self-inflicted wounds by Brentford. A poor back pass that was short that allowed a player to run, Almiron to run onto it and score. It had an own goal, the last goal, an own goal by Pinnock. And there was also some poor defending earlier in the game. So they had about 3 goals. 3 out of the 5 goals were definitely self-inflicted, but it didn't matter. Newcastle was all over. Brentford, Bruno Ramirez is really playing out of his skin right about now. He had 2 goals. Jacob Murphy and Almiron chipped in with the other 4. And as I said, there was our own goal. In terms of Brentford, Ivan Toney scored a penalty. Right now, Newcastle is sitting 6th in the league. Let me just confirm that. Yes. Newcastle,
Yes.
after playing 9 games, are sitting 6th in the league. And when you look at their performances, even though they lost against City, they had City down. When you look at their performances, Newcastle staking a claim to being part of the top 6. Do you all think Newcastle is going to get into Europe come the end of the season?
No.
Zahir?
No. 9
No?
games in 6. Nope. 9 games in 6 spots, but they've only won 3 of those 9 and drawn 5. Right? They bought players who are not world beaters. The Premier League players that have moved from other clubs, players like Callum Wilson, players like Chris Wood, players like Kieran Trippier coming back to the Premier League. These are seasoned professionals, but they are not names that fly out of your mouth when you think of elite players that can take you to a Premier League top 6 spot or challenge for a title realistically. Just 7 seasons ago, Newcastle was relegated from the Premier League. And since they came back, their highest finish was 10th. So I think it's a safe bet to say a couple of things. One, I think they safely will find themselves in the top 10 of the Premier League table. And 2, I think a more realistic target for them this season is that 7th spot, that Conference League, to get a little taste of European football.
Conference League is still Europe, you know?
It is. So get that little taste of Europe back, because what they're going to need to get within the next couple of years is the more elite player. And then you're going to find yourself in a position where is that elite player coming just for the paycheck or for the project? Because let's face facts, they're one of the few people who could match City and PSG when it comes to paychecks. Now, they haven't been doing it so far, and they've been very astute about how they're going about their progress. But it's only going to take that first foray into the actual Europa League or getting that first bite of the Champions League cherry again before they start spending the cash. So I think it's a little too early to say top 6. Top 8 are willing to go there.
All right. And what say you, Tristan?
I will agree to disagree. I would say they buy the players that the manager want that he could get right now in terms of splashing the cash. They didn't really overspend on any players they buy. He used the players that he could use to the best of his ability. They overspent previous years and they bought this guy from the German league. Now he's playing midfield. He was a striker. They bring him in as a striker. Now he's playing midfield. So the coach is very smart. He know exactly what it is he's doing. And as you say, it's not a big caliber of players and big names. I could understand that, right? While I could understand that, they bring in a team that is rugged and teams hate to face. right? Remember what Wolves are like when they had teeth? When they had teeth and everybody hated to play them? Newcastle are the
No,
team. Everybody
Newcastle, and
are
I
the
keep
team.
saying it,
Yeah,
and I'm gonna keep saying it. Newcastle,
the
Brighton,
team everybody hate to play.
yeah, Newcastle, Brighton, and Crystal Palace are three teams nobody likes to play right now. Nobody. But I want
Yeah,
to
I
ask you
think
this. Zaire talked about them bringing in almost players, right? Players on the cusp of greatness. And to me, it seems like they had a 3-year project. So first when they first took over the club, the idea was to not get relegated. Job done last season. This year, I think the idea was, let's finish mid-table, right? Between 8th, 9th, 10th. And next year, when they're in striking distance of Europe, the idea was to go and look for the premium. Maybe it might need to be a little aged player. You mightn't get a young premium, but definitely the older premium. That is what I think the plan for Newcastle is. But you all would remember that Eddie Howe didn't just avoid relegation, he finished fairly well placed. So he overperformed in the first season, and it looks to me like Eddie Howe is overperforming again with this team.
well,
Whereas they may have been planning to
John,
finish mid-table, it looked like they may finish a little higher up. Or do you all think that they're going to drop off at some point?
the plan was clear because they spent some cash on Andreas Isak and they brought him in. Now, yes, he's currently injured, but they brought him in because Callum Wilson is no longer a spring chicken by anybody's definition. He's been around the Premier League for a while because he was at Bournemouth, so that's a player that Eddie Howe knows very well. However, with Callum Wilson, you're guaranteed he's going to miss time a couple times during the season with injuries. So they brought in Andreas Isak, who is the young player who can learn from the seasoned professional. Sadly, now he is injured. So they've been planning. I think Kieran Trippier is a monster in terms of leadership on that team, because the man has played at the highest level with England, with the national team. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's probably still Gareth Southgate's go-to right back on the England team, right? So yes, they have an identity. They have an idea of where they want to go. The thing that made me realize how smart the owners were going to be is they didn't splash money on a big name manager. They took a manager who understood how to build a team because he did it with Bournemouth, understood how to keep a team in the Premier League, especially if they have to survive a relegation battle at first. So it's good signs. And Newcastle is one of the most historic teams in the league. St. James Park is a hell of a place to go and play for. Of course, the Trinidadian connection is something we love, with the great Shaka Hislop having played for them. So good things from Newcastle is only going to be good things for the rest of the league.
Tristan, what say you?
I said, based on what it is they doing, yes, he overachieved. I agree slightly with what Zahir is saying, but I will be devil's advocate and say they know exactly what they're doing. The owner, when they take over, they actually came out and say exactly what is our plan. They say we're not going to spend money like Manchester City on paper over the cracks. We're not going to get players. Remember, City had a lot of players who they buy that flop also, and they were on big wages, right? They say we're going to bring in players that know the league, players that want to fight. And if you actually look at the project itself, they brought in fighters. Chris Wood. Who would like to come up against Chris Wood? Callum Wilson. When Callum Wilson on his day, he's explosive. He could even be a better striker.
It don't even have
than
anything
Kane.
to do with his D. Once Callum Wilson is fit, he is going to score
Oh,
goals. Simple
of
as
course.
that.
As long as he's fit, you definitely
Once he's
get
fit, he's
goals.
going to score goals.
Of course, you definitely get that. And you have one of the best upcoming midfielder, Bruno Guimaraes, who's actually, I want him to be fit to go to the World Cup.
Bruno
This kid
Bruno
is
Gomares
explosive.
looking like
He can play
he
defensive,
want
he
to
can
be
play
a star,
attacking,
bro.
he know exactly what he's about. And he didn't, when he signed for them, he said straight up, yes, the money is life changing. By the end of the day, my dream is to actually make the Brazil squad. And I want to be playing for Newcastle. And I want to be playing for Brazil. And so say so done. Yes, money will entice anybody to make a move. Right? Look at Paquita. Right? Look at Casemiro. You could say. It's life changing, but it's up to you to actually come there and actually prove everybody wrong. And he's doing that. So
Yeah, for
I
sure.
reckon Newcastle will take Liverpool's spot and be in the top 6. I said from the beginning Liverpool will be out of the top 10, will be down to top 10 or something. So because Mane proved such, and they clearly see it. And I'll go on the record to say that Newcastle will take this spot based on what I'm seeing. And you can argue they win 3 games, but with injuries, majority of the players was injured. They didn't lose, huh? They draw 5. Yeah, they
True,
probably lose,
true.
but what I mean, they drew majority of the games.
They only lost one game, which was to
They only
Manchester
lose one
City.
game. So you could argue and say, so what happened with the 8 games? They won 3, they draw 5 games that they could have lose. So that alone show you fight. Now
And then they
decided to
also
come
had
back
a bad VAR decision robbed them a victory as well.
against Liverpool. Yeah, everybody could
They should have won that game instead of drawing that game
comfortably.
So Zaire, you believe that they're gonna be right outside 7th. Tristan is saying top 6. Martin Phillip is saying top 6.
The 5 teams ahead of them right now.
10.
The 2 Manchester teams, Arsenal, Chelsea, right? And Tottenham are the 5 teams ahead of them right now. Right? And
so
I believe
they can finish 6th.
At best, I think they will finish as 6th. And I do think they may rightly hold on to that 6th spot because there are teams in and around the mix there that have been finishing higher than Newcastle constantly for the last couple of years.
And I agree with you. And as I said, they had a 3-year plan for Europe, but Eddie Howe is showing that he is a definite overperformer. So we will see. We will definitely keep our eye on Newcastle. Talking about Spurs, another top 6 team, they beat Brighton, another team that is performing very well. And I must say, looking at that game, Son assist to Harry Kane. We all know the story. We all know the outcome. But Spurs was kind of lucky to get 3 points because I find Brighton look real good. Brighton look really good, and they deserve something out of that game. It didn't come, but it is what it is, right? You got to win. And the last game, well, actually, it was the first game that played on Saturday, but it's the last game we're going to talk about on Saturday, is Leicester versus Bournemouth. Leicester, one of a few teams this weekend that scored early and first and went on to lose the game, right? So in the 10th minute, Daka put the ball in the back of the net. It was bouncing around the box. I can't remember. I think it was Barnes took the shot and the keeper saved and it bounced around and Daka was the first to react. Boom. Leicester was up. And you tell yourself, here it is. Leicester is going to have their second win of the, and try to take themselves off of the bottom of the league. But no, second half, Philip Billing and Ryan Christie from Bournemouth, a team newly promoted, defeating Leicester. Leicester could have gotten a few more. They didn't really create that many chances in the second half. This is relegation form for a manager who was touted as being one of the top managers in England, even before he left and went to, it was Celtic, he went to Rangers.
I will say,
which one did Rodgers go to?
He went to Celtic.
Right, so he went to Celtic. This was a man who, even before he went to Celtic, was highly rated.
Was at Liverpool.
He was highly rated at Liverpool. He went to Celtic, won titles, won cups, came back to the Premier League, had Leicester always there and thereabouts in the top 4, always finishing in Europe. And now the whole bottom has seemed to fall out of this team. Do you all guys think that Brendan Rodgers' job is in question, or do you think that the owners just have unlimited confidence in him?
I will say this, in all fairness to Rodgers, Leicester don't want to spend the 25 million to sack him. If they could pay 5 million and sack him, they sack him in a heartbeat. But 25 million right now is is a lot of money, and right now they on financial fair play watch. But he got, yeah, rightfully so, Courtney Andrews. He definitely fired before he sacked before the World Cup. I believe I was hearing rumors that if they do lose the Crystal Palace, that is it. We get 15 million payout package.
The
So
Rogers magic has worn off because in the last 5 years they've been in the top 10 every year, right? It was not really and truly that long ago, just 2015-16, when the Tinkerman himself, Claudio Ranieri, pulled a miracle rabbit out of the hat and took them to a Premier League title, right? But the thing about it is, the players that have helped Leicester secure those top 10 spots, a lot of them have left and they haven't adequately replaced the players that have left. And they are
and well,
still,
you see, I was now going to bring that question to you, Zaire, because we have two comments. We have Martin Phillip saying that, what has the owners done for Rogers this season? And you have Courtney saying pretty much the same thing. The owners have to take some licks too. I mean, you
exactly because,
sold one of the top goalkeepers in the league in
correct,
Schmeichel to a French
which
team,
nobody really expected or saw coming.
right? And then you replaced him by promoting your backup keeper. And we all see when we look at Ward in goal why he's a backup keeper, right? Ward
No,
is not a
and
starting
they
keeper
they have
in the
to
Premier League.
investigate. They have to investigate if he's actually a goalkeeper, or if he was a B keeper or a wicket keeper or some kind of keeper, right? Maybe his life partner called him a keeper, and they thought, aha, we need a keeper, and he
And
got the
and
job.
and one of my challenges is with Leicester is like how bad has this team become defensively? Right? You have Daka, you
I
have Iheanacho, you
well,
have Vardy, you have Barnes, who had a very good season last season, and then you have the man Madison, who seems to be the hot man at the moment. You have enough there that you should at least be saying, even if we're struggling in the back, let's try to outscore the opposition. Bournemouth is a newly promoted team. Yes, they were playing at home, but still, I mean, with
I
these kind of
think
performances, you have at
the
some
points,
point you have to blame the manager.
apart from the manager, I think the points on ownership is good because remember they lost their owner tragically in a helicopter crash, right?
Yes. But that was
And
two seasons ago.
I think after that, there was a vacuum there that has not been properly filled. I'm not quite sure if it's his son or a board or who has taken over the major
His son.
decision making.
His son is leading the club.
Right? I don't think, obviously, you're not ready to step in after circumstances like that because nobody could
You
have
wouldn't
foreseen something like that happening.
you wouldn't have been planning for that.
So I think it's what they're falling short in the boardroom, and that is having a knock on effect. But then that doesn't absolve Rogers from everything, right? And maybe the Rogers has simply just run its course, and they will need to look at if they survive this season, how they rebuild. Now, yes, there's precedence because remember, the last time them fellas survive a season by the skin of their teeth, they turn around the following season and win the league,
And they won the Premier League.
right?
So I have one question for you before we shift, and it is simple yes or no. Do you think that this Leicester team is going to survive? Because after 9 games with that kind of record, one win, one draw, literally their defense is the worst statistically in the league. Um, do you think they're going to survive, or do you think Leicester is in danger of being
All I
relegated?
can say is if they survive, it will not be with Brendan Rodgers at the helm. He'll be gone. He will definitely be gone. I don't think ownership can tolerate any more or much more of these performances. I think he'll be gone before the World Cup. And I think during the World Cup break, they will assess, they will look at who is out there.
You know,
Their main point will be survival. If they get the right manager, they'll survive.
it's interesting. We all talk about the World Cup and the effect it may have on players, but you brought up a point there, and I think before the World Cup break is actually the perfect time for clubs who are considering changing managers. The perfect time to fire a manager in the middle of the season because it's going to give you a lot of time to go through your recruitment process and
Correct.
to analyze the same way you may be looking at players. Yeah, there may be some managers on show at the World Cup as well, and that's a very
And
interesting
the
point.
The World Cup is a shopping window, and it ends just before the January transfer window opens, right? So what you might find happening, I remember SAF doing this with Chicharito, right? Making sure he made the contact, locked in the contract, and the deal before he went off to the World Cup and hot up the scenes with Mexico. Because if we waited till after, the price was gonna double, right? So the players, I'm sure they have some players in mind. I am pretty sure that before the January transfer window, Leicester is going to have a new manager, and they're going to be sitting there with an idea of how do we get out of the relegation. So yeah, I think they'll survive, but it all depends on getting the right guy at the top.
All right, so let's go and look at some of the other games that played on Sunday. We had Crystal Palace playing Leeds, beating Leeds 2-1. Leeds, another one of those teams that scored early, like Leicester, and went on to lose. Um, Pascal Strauss scored in the 10th minute, and Crystal Palace scored through Edward and Ise with an assist from Wilfred Zaha. Zaha looked like he triple captained himself in fantasy for that game. Every opportunity Zaha got to take a shot, he was shooting. He beat a man in the box, he shot. When he passed the ball to Eze that actually ended up in the goal winner, the match winner, it looked like he was hoping for a 1-2. He kicked the ball and he was making a run and he said, took the ball, beat a player and was like, that is the goal there. Like a bullet. And you know what I mean? They scored. But Zaha definitely looks like he's on a mission. And every so often, over the past 5 seasons, every so often Zaha looks like that. He just looks like a man on fire. He definitely has his name up there as one of the top midfielders in the league. Crystal Palace has been playing well.
Is
They
he
should
going to
have
the World Cup?
uh which
Is
African country is Zaha
it
playing?
Ivory Coast he's with?
I'm really not sure if Zaha is going to the World Cup. But I mean, I don't think he's playing for his spot. Because once his country is in the World Cup, he is in the team. Zaha is just playing like a man
Well,
possessed. Like
the question I always have about Zaha is he the stereotypical man who is happy to be a big fish in a small pond?
I think Zaha is willing to move, but strangely enough, big teams just haven't come in for Zaha. Season after season, I wonder. I don't know about anybody else, but I wonder, like, why is Zaha still at this team? I would think by
Remember
now he
that
should have
that
moved.
was the question. That was the question that was asked about one Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang for years before he
Yeah,
moved
when
to
he ended up
Arsenal,
spending an extra season at Dortmund. I
right?
mean, at some point, somebody is going to come in for Zaha, and it's only at that time we will see how good he is. If he's going to be like
Okay,
Jack Grealish,
I'll put, I'll,
go to our
I'll
next
put it on
team and look
record here now.
average.
If Newcastle manages to lock down a European spot, don't be surprised if they move for a player like Zaha.
Zaha is the kind of player that you want. Premier League experience, a lot of fight. Imagine a man like Zaha and Saint Maximin on the same team. That's pressure, boy.
Yeah, you
Everton
have
versus,
Zaha on one side and St. Maximum on the other side, partner.
you understand? Everton versus Manchester United. Everton, another team that scored early, scored first, and went on to lose.
Call it
Let
what
me
it is.
see.
They took the Jepness and they got stung.
Everton scoring in the 5th minute. Alex Iwobi, former Arsenal player, with a wonderful shot outside of the box, capitalizing on a mistake from Casemiro. And then you had Anthony 10 minutes later, leveling the score. That is his third Premier League goal in his third Premier League game. And then the man
First
Cristiano
player to do it.
Ronaldo on a feed from Casemiro achieving the milestone of 700 club goals. That is a monumental achievement and a very well taken goal on his part. The biggest thing about this game for me is the overturned goal of Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford would have made it 3-1, and the goal was ruled out by VAR because of a handball. Now, for anybody who didn't see the game, Rashford was jumping the keeper, and the ball came up off of the keeper and hit him on his upper body, grazed a little bit of his arm, and he followed through and put the ball in the back of the net. My challenge with that VAR decision is that when you look at other handball calls that were allowed over the course of the weekend, which would be the next game we're going to talk about, West Ham versus Fulham, VAR looked at it and allowed it, but it disallowed the goal with Marcus Rashford. Why? What are your thoughts on that?
What I want to know is this: what sanctions or repercussions or penalties are taken, if any, for referees who are operating this VAR system and continually getting calls wrong? Right? Because, for example, in cricket, the ICC has an elite panel of umpires, and they review their performances. And if you've been doing crap for a little while, you're bumped down a level. Right? So I don't know if the same applies, because the same officials, for example, the VAR official was, what's his name? Andrew Mariner. Andrew Mariner was the VAR official for our game against Everton. And he also does games as the referee. And we've seen him make mistakes there as well. There needs to be some sort of standards for VAR. There has to be a standardization in terms of what you're going to call and what you're not going to call, because when you leave things up to a referee, I perfectly agree with that comment, even though I can't translate the French on air. When you leave things to interpretation by its very nature is subjective, Chad. What you will see as a foul is not what I think a foul should be, right? You might be a referee who comes out from new school football where if you only touch a man is a foul. I might be a referee who come out from the Roy Keane days where you literally had to break a man's foot for me to give you a red card. So when it's subjective like that, you throw out accuracy, because you can't legislate for how somebody is going to see something. In this instance, there is no way Marcus Rashford could have avoided that ball making contact with his hand. And it takes me back to the game against Sociedad, where VAR looks at that and says, yes, it's a penalty. How is Martinez supposed to avoid the ball striking him in that moment?
Martin Phillip is saying that he hopes that none of the referees, none of the VAR referees from the Premier League goes to the World Cup. And I must say, at this rate, I would be surprised if any of the English referees go to the World Cup, and that would be the second World Cup running where there would be no English referee. So we'll see how that goes. But to touch on your first point, I think the only thing that is going to cause change is, as you said, there must be a sanction on referees. And the Referee Association can sanction referees. They don't, to me, I don't think they have a stated policy. But if referees make really bad decisions or consistently bad decisions, they bump them down. So they stop being Premier League referees, they demote them to playing to refereeing in the Championship or the first or second division or something like that. Because
just
really,
go referee Arsenal games.
Say that again?
No, they could just go referee Arsenal games.
So, because now what I heard where the rule is concerned is that because the ball bounced up and touched his arm and there wasn't any interference, meaning it didn't touch another player, there wasn't more action, he didn't have to beat anybody else, he just put the ball in the back of the net, that is the reason. My thing is, a handball is a handball is a handball. If you hand the ball, you hand the ball. It's either you're given the handball or you're not. And if it is a given the handball in this case, then let's talk about West Ham versus
Mikel Antonio.
Fulham. Another team scored early in the 5th minute. Andreas Pereira, his first goal for Fulham.
Wait, who that? Call that name again?
Andreas Pereira. His
The
first goal for
forgotten
Fulham.
Brazilian from Bayern.
Yeah. And again, Fulham scored first, went on to lose the game. Gerard Bowen got a penalty in the first half, and in the second half, there were 2 handball goals that VAR checked. 2, and they are allowed to stand. The first by the new the new striker coming from the Italian league, Schumacher. The ball bounced up, touched the bottom of his fingers, rolled, he put it in the back of the net. Now, he had already beat the keeper, right? The handball really did not aid him in any way. The same way the handball didn't aid Marcus Rashford, because the ball hit more of his chest than his arm. The handball didn't aid him at all. But the bottom line is the ball hit his hand, he put it in the back of the net, VAR checked it, said it's a valid goal. If you watch the game, when he scored the goal, he didn't celebrate, because he himself thought that VAR was going to strike it off, because he knew the ball hit his hand. His reaction when he saw the referee blow to the center circle to say that it was a goal was like if he now scored. He was like, he couldn't believe that was given as a goal. And that speaks volumes, right? That speaks volumes for poor decision making. And then the even more grievous is when Michael Antonio in the extra time after 90 minutes jumped a player, he used his hand to control the ball. The ball was coming up to him, and he brought his hands like this. His hand controlled the ball, rounded the keeper, took a shot. The ball deflected, bounced around a little bit, and then he ended up putting it in the back of the net. And VAR looked at it and gave that goal as a goal as well. And this is my problem. My problem is the inconsistency. It is either a handball in the build-up to play is a handball full stop, or if you're looking at it as whether it's an intentional handball or whatever the case is you're looking at, and they decide, well, okay, this player could not have avoided it, it didn't give him an edge, then you're supposed to let the goal stand. And if that is the case, then why strike off Marcus Rashford goal and allow 2 handball goals, giving West Ham, a 2-3-1 victory over Fulham? If I was a Fulham supporter, I'd be very upset. As far as I'm concerned, all your teeth me. We should have gotten a point from that game, even though West Ham was the better team.
The thing, there has to be a reassessment on the handball, and you have to go either. It is either you go to the extreme of saying once you touch your hand, no good. Handball is a handball is a handball, right? No good, right? It's sort of like a 2-footed challenge or a headbutt is a red card, is a red card, is a red card, right? You can't unintentionally walk up to a man and
I don't think, as much as people may argue, I don't think players or even those of us that comment on the game would have an issue with that, because there would be consistency. The reason we have an issue is the lack of consistency. It is, how is this a goal and the same thing over here is not a goal? How you understand? That is the problem that we have.
This is only October. We only 9 games into the Premier League and 4 games into our Europa League campaign. Well, the 4th game we'll be playing this Tuesday coming here. And we've already had bad calls from VAR. One that cost us the game against Sociedad. And one, imagine if that call against Rashford was the go-ahead goal.
Imagine if Everton scored in extra time,
in the
and
end,
instead of
which
2-1
it did
winners, it was
with
the
2-2.
game ended up 2-2 and then we have to remember Newcastle. Newcastle are sixth, but Newcastle has had two bad VAR decisions that have robbed them of points.
Of
Crystal
course.
Palace have had a bad VAR decision that robbed them of a victory. So VAR is actually costing teams points. And the whole purpose of VAR is to make sure that the game is just. When VAR is now adding to the injustice, something has to be done. And let's see when, and only hope that they could sort that out faster rather than later. And the last game of this Premier League week was Nottingham Forest playing Aston Villa. Nottingham Forest, Aston Villa playing to a draw. Emmanuel Dennis, we all remember him playing for the Hornets last season, scored for Nottingham Forest. And the man Ashley Young scored for Aston Villa. A real bullet of a shot from outside of the box.
Roll back the years, boy.
Yes, indeed. I want to look at the standings, and we're going to touch on Nottingham Forest and Aston Villa in a little bit. But we see the first three teams after playing 9 games. Arsenal on 24 points, City right behind them on 23, Tottenham on 20, Chelsea with a game, and Manchester United both with games in hand, 16 and 15 respectively.
I want to point out something to here, Chad.
Go ahead.
What's the goal difference on the top three as opposed to everybody underneath them? And that, at the end of the day, is going to be telling. Remember, we felt the pain of losing a title on goal difference to City, right? And City, the rate at which they're scoring, the way that they are scoring for fun, and somebody was making the point today that Bournemouth stopped Haaland from scoring, but they lost the game 4-0. So stopping him from scoring doesn't ensure that you win the game. All it does is it
Imagine
means
that
other people are going to score.
Bournemouth are 8 right now with a goal difference of -12.
Now, remember that -12 includes that 9-0 from Liverpool. So it's
Correct.
a little skewed there. You get 9 from our side and you're 2 places ahead of them on the table right now.
And for anybody who's wondering, Liverpool, I had to remove the ticker because Liverpool are 10 all the way down at the bottom. And if I didn't do something, you would not have seen Liverpool down on the bottom there. So let's look at the bottom of the table. We have Brentford at 11th, and I want to focus more on the teams down in the bottom. Leicester, after 9 games, only 4 points. 1 win, 1 draw. Nottingham Forest, 1 win, 2 draws. Wolves, 1 win, 3 draws. Out of these teams down in the bottom here, who do you think is going to survive?
Well, at the start of the season, I was saying I'd like to see Forest stay up because, hey, this is a team with 2 champions. This is a team with 2 European trophies, right? They have 2 trophies more than City and Arsenal and Tottenham combined, right? But I want them go down now simply because of one thing, Mr. Ungrateful Dean Henderson, right? He needs humbling, and I think playing a full season with them and they get relegated, and the way he conceded goals, peg his ego down to where it should be. 1, 2. As much as I love the history of Aston Villa, Stevie Gerrard, questions has to be asked about his managerial style and if it's suited for England. I mean, he had a fairly okay time with Rangers, but the Scottish League is basically a 2-team league. It comes down to the Old Firm derby pretty much every season, right? Leicester, I think, when they fire Rodgers, once they get the right person inside, they'll go on a little bump. Southampton is a team that should be worried because every year they are in this position where they somehow manage to claw their way out of it, right? They lost Broha. They lost some other players. They have some good players, but it doesn't look like they really and truly have depth and the personnel to continue staying out of the fight. And boy, Wolves, boy, as they say, boy, somebody like that can handle on Wolves' head, boy, because nothing they seem to be trying is working.
And the thing is with Wolves and Leicester, when you look at these teams have good players. These
They
teams are
do.
teams that performed well last season. These teams were teams that were pushing the top six last season easily. So, it's a real fall from grace. But it's only 9 games in for most of these teams in the bottom here, right? Leeds seems to be doing well, but there's only 9 games in, so we will be checking the table every week as we continue on the EPL Rewind. Let's talk a little bit before we shut down the program about the fixtures that are to come next week. What fixtures are we looking forward to? So we have the what used to be a big clash. I say used to be because it's clearly not a big clash in the context of this season, which is Liverpool 10th playing Manchester City 2nd. You looking forward to that game, and what do you expect? What kind of results you expect from that game?
As a Manchester fan, you never want to see Liverpool win. You never want to support
You,
them,
you don't
and
want
you
to see
never
City
want to
win
be.
either.
You don't want to see City win either. But I'd take Liverpool suffering over City suffering any day, right? It comes like this. If Arsenal cannot hold on to it, and Tottenham cannot get their act together to win it, then I would actually have to prefer City winning it over Liverpool. I
Of
would be
course, without doubt.
prepared.
Well, I mean, this is
I,
one season. I don't think we're really concerned about Liverpool. Liverpool is so far off the pace. It will
boy,
probably take
listen.
a miracle.
Funnier things have happened in football,
That is
right?
true.
Funnier things have happened.
Um,
Remember the year we ran down Newcastle and overtook them and won the league, right?
true, true,
And
true.
probably damaged Kevin Keegan's psyche for life, right? Nobody knows what's going to happen. As you see, after the World Cup, Chad, it is all going to hinge on whose players come back fit from the World Cup and who gets fit. Like Diaz is going to be fit after the World
Yeah,
Cup.
the World Cup is going to be a major player in the
Of
outcome of
course,
not just the Premier
for
League,
the
most
first
of the
time in
leagues in
history.
Europe,
For the
right?
first time in history,
Um,
because your
so
injured players have a month long break, essentially.
now the game week starts on Friday with Brentford
Mm-hmm.
playing Brighton, right? Those are two teams that tend to be trouble for some of the teams on the top half of the table. Let's see what they're going to do against each other. Leicester is taking on Crystal Palace. I expect Leicester to just get more licks. I'm sorry that for any only Leicester supporters, that's just how it is right about now. I expect Leicester to get more licks. Fulham is taking on Broadmouth. Again, two promoted teams. Mitrovic is supposed to be back. He was out injured in the last game. He's supposed to be back for this game, so let's see what goes on. Wolves is taking on Nottingham Forest. Spurs is taking on Everton. Most likely more licks for Everton. And on Sunday, those games I just called were on Saturday. On Sunday, I have Aston Villa taking on Chelsea. That should be interesting. Arsenal taking on Leeds and Manchester United taking on Newcastle. But this is a game, Newcastle, as you all always hear me say, one of the teams that is difficult to beat. They just came off a 5-1 win, so their confidence is going to be sky high. Let's see what Eric Ten Hag and the gang could do against Newcastle. And then you have Southampton versus West Ham before the last game of the week, which is Liverpool Man City. So full weekend of games, a lot of excitement. We spoke about the Liverpool Man City game. The other game that I'm going to ask you to give a prediction on and your thoughts on is Manchester United Newcastle. What do you think about that game?
CR7, sorry, let me call the man by his correct name. CR700 will most likely start the game. I don't think they're going to bring Martial or Russian back, right? If they don't start with Ronaldo, it's going to be Rashford up top, and I really don't want to see us going back to that because we've brought him back on the left and he's been doing well, right? I will say victory to United. I don't think we're going to run away. I don't think we're going to hit them four as we did in Ronaldo's comeback game, because I think they are a better team this season than they were last season. So 2-1. 2-1, I think, is a safe prediction. I'm saying the
All right.
one because I'm saying the one for Newcastle because I'm not sure if Varane is going to start with Martinez.
All right. All right. Fair enough. Peoples, remember, like the video, share the video, get people involved in the community. You know what I mean? If you appreciate what we're doing here at the United Hour and you're enjoying this program, the EPL Rewind. Zaya, thank you very much. Give much thanks to
Always a
Trista. It seems
pleasure.
like he was heading out to have himself a little night on the town this evening. And we're looking forward to it. Remember, the game week starts on Friday for anybody who plays fantasy football. See about your teams Thursday night, Friday morning, because football starts on Friday and we have another packed week of football ending on Sunday. So the EPL Rewind will be on Sunday this weekend. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, people.
Support the United Hour. Click that like button and subscribe.